Greetings, pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today we're going to be looking at how I went about building the modular kit that I'm using for my game world. Now, I received a few questions about this because I realized I never went through and actually explained how I went and modeled the walls, the door arches, the corner pieces, all that. So I wanted to give you a small example here of something that I've been building to give to you guys. Now, the kit is complete as far as it has been modeled, but the kit is not complete as far as the all of the textures. So I'm building a really nice texture because ultimately, with my project, I'm going to be switching themes during the game. So you'll go from like a medieval theme to like a sci-fi theme. Everything is going to get changed. So a modular kit really helps with that, because if the whole world is based upon a certain structure, then you can make some underlying fundamental changes and everything is different, with the flick of a switch. So let me take you into Maya and we'll take a look at what I've built for you, okay? So here is the kit. This is based upon the kit that I am using. This is not the exact same kit. This is just a variety of things I thought you could use. Okay, sorry about that. So in total, this kit is 142 pieces. So that includes multiple doorways, multiple walls. We have these dead ends, two different types of corners, an interior and an exterior corner. Then we have smaller half walls that follow that same structure. We have some pillars here. We have some pillar caps, and these things could be used like bricks or small decorations. These pieces here are the structure that makes up our pathing pieces, so you could use these as a carpet, or for the sci-fi, I'm going to draw some lines on this and make these like energy lines along the floor that show you. So we have our straight pieces, our T's, our corners, our intersections here, and then these are end caps. Then we have 7 different floors, and I'll talk about some of the neat tricks we use in there. Then we have 5 different stairs, and each stair uses first a different wall, so if you can match it up to the walls that you need, and then you can see the colors here. Each then has 4 different variants of the trim, and that trim is used for the actual riser and the step, okay? Then over here we have 2 sets of 24, so 48 pieces here. These are our floor and ceiling trims. So we have 3 different sizes of trim, so this A, B, and C sizing in different variants. So we have 2 variants for the first 2 and 4 variants for the last. And then we have the corner pieces. So we have interior and exterior corners. So here's our interiors, our exteriors, and then the same pattern essentially, but upside down and towards the ceiling for our walls. So this will go along the top. Think of this as like baseboard, and these are sort of like crown molding, along the top there. All right, so that's the entire kit. So that's all of these pieces. So that's these guys, all of these, all of these, all of these, all the steps, and all of these, less this one pillar, and this guy's an experiment. So that's 142 pieces, and that's available for download on the website right now. So you can go and download this kit and use it, and have fun with it. You will have to provide your own textures. I'm working on textures that I can give you guys for this, and you'll see what we have in work right now. So now you'll notice that all of these pieces are different colors, and the colors are based upon what I created as sort of a map. So let me show you the unwrap here. So if I pull back on the unwrap, and let's turn off the grid momentarily. So you see there's just a whole bunch of color here. But what we've done is the entire kit can be textured using one material. So I say one material, that's not one texture file, what you would think of as a file. This is one material, so that would be your base color or your diffuse, your metallic, your roughness, your normal, and your height. And maybe an AO and an emissive if you want to throw those in there. So using one material, we break this down, and essentially what we've done is each part of the texture here has its own sort of zone. So let's talk about this for a moment. So the way this works is that everything has to snap together. So for one thing, we have to be on a grid. We have to be very precise about how things connect together, and then we want to reuse things in smart ways. We're trying to get more out of less, okay? This is something that I'm very good at growing up. I always got things and said, oh, let me turn this into something else. So what we're going to do here is like these half walls, are still mapped to this first square here is our first wall variant, and we just map it in a way that it only takes up the first half vertically of this space. So now two pieces are being textured by the same space on the texture. And that means we get a lot of reusability out of this. And a little imagination, we can get even more. We can really squeeze this lemon and get a ton out of this. So let me give you a little tour of our pieces here. So this is a 4096 by 4096. And this is split into essentially a grid of 16 squares, if you look at it that way. And then each square within it has a different aspect or area to our modular kit. Now this is what's called an atlas, because everything from the texture is looking up in here, and multiple pieces are looking up from the same space. So that's why they call it an atlas. So this first square here, this is wall variant A, so that's this guy here. If I click him, you might see some of the UVs there. He's also been offset by one UV shell so that nothing overlaps and we don't have problems with the normal map. But if you take this shell and move it down one, it covers this square exactly. So the first 3, 4, 5 wall variants are here, 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 and here. Then this area is our wall trims. So we have 1, 2 of the thicker trim. So this is a 1/4, and then this is a 1/8, and then this is a 1/16. So there's 4 of those, 2 of these, and 2 of these. And the way that I work this out is with my grid, everything in the game is 180 by 180 units is a square. So I've kept everything in square, and because it's an even number, the entire texture sheet here works in eighths. So we have a whole, a half, a quarter, and then we have down into 1/8, 1/16. So that's the way we're working down with these numbers. So then we get to this square here. So the first half of this square is the beginnings of our pillars. So these guys here, you see if I click that, this lights up, that's where our pillar is. And we're going to go over how to do all of this. I just want to let you know how it works first. Then we have 2 other pillar types, and these are the 2 next to it here and here. They're a little bit thinner, and we're going to use those there. Then these pieces here begin to get into our trims here. So these are the top of a pillar. So you see here, like that, top of the pillar. Or you could use these as maybe a stone, or if you get clever with your textures for your floors, these could be unsettled stones in the floor. You could use these to kind of model more detail into it. So there are different variants here, and if we look at these, let's take a look. So this is sort of a whole piece, is what I call it. So it's an entire, and this is half vertically. And then here are 2 different of these side pieces. You could use these. I use some of these back here to decorate this door frame. You see this whole door frame? Let's move him forward. We'll take a look at him in relationship to this, okay? So this door frame is a door frame with all these other pieces kind of smashed together. So you could do this inside of Unreal or inside of Unity using a prefab or a blueprint. So that's one way you could do it. I did it here in texturing, or I mean modeling rather. And then here all of the unwraps you can see are offset so that nothing overlaps itself. So these can be used for that. So there are 2 variants of that, and then these are half vertically variants of the same thing. And then here we have a small cap, and then this is a half vertical of that cap. Okay, so now let's move on to the floors. So the floors here, there's nothing special about these. These are just a plane set to the correct dimensions, 180 by 180, and everything has a centered 0 pivot to the world. So these first 2, as you can see as I click them, you can see them highlighting here, and then this third one actually comes down over here. So 1, 2, 3. These last 4 variants are quarter variants. So what I've done here is this texture is designed to be repeated and tiled quite a bit. You notice back when we looked inside of Unreal, we had one that was like a checkerboard pattern, right? So that's a obviously repeating pattern. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with repetition. So we're going to take advantage of that, and we make just 1 repetition in this corner, and you can see it's unwrapped to this corner. But if I pull back, you'll see that all 4 quadrants to this plane have been mapped to that same spot and then offset so we don't get overlap. So that means that we are reusing this little bit of texture space, but we're stretching it kind of out to this whole size of a tile. So the last 4 of these in the chart here take advantage of that mechanic, as you can see there. So that one there, over, and they're all offset still, offset, offset. So we got 4 floors out of the space here. You can see that was taken up by 1 tile from another floor. So use these for something that you definitely think is okay for it to be tiled, and then use these for more, you want a little bit more detail out of them, or you want a more unique setup. Okay, so now down to the paths. So I like carpets for my medieval games, so that's where I was headed mentally with this. But you can use this as a path. It could be a dirt road. It could be, the energy lines, like I said, for the sci-fi. But here's essentially the idea is these two areas are split up into four, and we have a half of a quarter, and then we have a half of a quarter here, and then these are the two little end caps, and then here, half of a quarter, half of a quarter. So that's kind of how this works. So this guy, this first one, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 polygons here, but you'll notice that these two here, let me go into polygon mode, this will be a lot easier. So these two polygons are right here, but then these two polygons are also right here, but they're mapped in such a way that they are offset, for one thing, and they've been reversed horizontally, they've been mirrored. And then these two are basically this piece just turned upside down and mirrored, and then these two are this piece just turned upside down based upon like a center pivot here. So I'm getting this whole piece out of just a little bit of my texture space. And that's what this kind of thing is all about, is you have the kit, so we're doing it physically with pieces that snap together, and then in the atlas with the texture, we're doing texture kind of pieces that snap together. Okay? So I just wanted to explain that a little bit. So this piece is drawing from this here. This guy is drawing from down here, and with the final texture, I'm going to label everything, and you'll see, but basically my path idea here is that this area here is sort of like a raw carpet, maybe nothing finished. Then down here we have carpet that has a trim along the edge, so it's definitely a finished woven piece of fabric. Then here we're going to have a trim to our fabric, but it's going to be worn and ragged, like it's aged, okay? So then here for our T-piece, so what we need here is a little bit of both. So you'll notice that these three polygons, let's go back to our polygon mode, these three here are pulling from this corner to make that turn. And then I did the same thing, and again mirrored it, but they're in the same texture space here, but mirrored it this way. Then these two are pulling from our area here with the worn out, and then the same thing here. And that will tile vertically, so it'll just keep going along this edge. So now we have a T-piece. And then the same thing over here, but this time we're using the texture from the area that is a clean, and then a clean. So you can see how this works. So now, jumping over here to our turn piece here. So this has to turn a corner. So the way we're doing that is these three here are down here. And then we're going to use a straight piece here, like we've done before. And then this piece here is designed just to be that corner turn. Okay? So we just put that little cap in there, and that works for both of those. Then these guys here are an end cap. So up here on this top part, our trim would come up and then come along this edge. So this trim will go around this corner like this, because this is this piece here, and then again the same piece but mirrored over here, and the same thing here but with the trim, and it's going to be that ragged edge look to it. And then here, very simply, our intersection pieces are essentially four of this section here, just mirrored and rotated around the center axis. So there we go. So that's how all those pieces work. Now, for all of our walls and trims and things, it's very easy to create one of these and then offset it. So we're going to go through an example here. So we're going to do an example of the walls, and I'm going to show you how this works, okay? So I'll try to keep this up so you can see it at all times. So let's go ahead and recreate what we've done here. So I'm going to go to object mode. Let's create a square, cube rather. And with this cube, I need to get to my attributes. So let's do that. Excuse me. So for our attributes, let's do 180, and we'll do 45 and 180. Okay, oh, that makes a floor. That's fine too. So say we're making this floor piece, right? And let's make this guy a little bit shorter, 22.5. Yeah, something more like that. This is a good floor slab piece, and we're centered to the world. That works for me. So now we're going to unwrap this guy, and we want to unwrap him to our atlas. So I'm going to give him a texture. So I'm going to say new existing material, use the sample piece. So you'll see it shows up, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense at first. That's okay. So now I'm going to give him an automatic unwrap just to let him kind of settle. Now we can start to move these pieces around. So first things first, I'm going to hold right click, and I'm going to say shell. I'm going to select all the shells, and using my W key, I'm going to move them all off of the chart. I don't want them anywhere on here. So now I have freedom to look around and make decisions. Okay, so this top piece, let's move him over here. And this is the bottom, so I'll put him underneath. And then this is my front edge, so I'm going to bring him kind of over here. Left edge over here. Right edge over here, and then this must be my top edge, okay? So now we need to make sure that they're oriented correctly. So I'm going to select this guy, and typically I can just move him over here and look and see if, yeah, that looks like he's oriented correctly, but just to make sure, we will go to UV, and I'm going to select the top left corner, and that should be that corner, and it is. And then I select this corner and make sure that it highlights this corner. That tells me that the orientation is correct, and if it was wrong, I could rotate it around using these buttons, but he's correct. So let's put him in the floor spot. So we're going to go here and hold X, and we can snap him to the grid. So I'm going to snap that bottom corner there, this bottom corner here, and the same two for these. And what this is doing now is, since I already have my texture set up, this guy we missed, let's put him in place. There we go. So now that I already have my texture set up, he's already being mapped to floor number 1. There we go. So he's already set. And then I can very easily take these, and let's make sure that these are correct too. So from the bottom, what I want is I want this corner to be the top left. So if I select this and I see that, yep, and I see that, yep. Now I'm good. Now it's even easier. If I hold the V key, this will snap to vertices. So I'm going to snap these in place. There we go. Snap them all in place. Now, I can't leave it just like this because sometimes your normal maps will get messed up if you have 2 shells directly on top of each other and it's reading from the same texture. So I'm going to select shell, select this guy, and if I bring this out a bit more, you'll notice that I have this tool over here. This is to move my shell, and right now it's set to 1.0. So it's going to move this shell exactly 1 whole UV area by that amount. So if I click the button once, you'll see what happens. So he's right here now, because when this texture repeats this way, so we go all the way over here, we're done. It's going to say start over again, starting here, but moving this way over here, so he'll paint the same. And we can prove that by, let's move this out of the way momentarily, we can prove that by looking at this guy. See, that color here is still that color here. So he's going to repeat nicely. Okay, so that's all set. So now all we have to do is put the rest of these guys in place. And this is a pretty quick procedure. I just take each one at a time, and I already know where they all are. So if I come around back here and look at this guy, I can start to look at my UVs and say, UV, which corner is this? That's the top right corner, so I know this thing needs to rotate 1 click this way, 2 clicks. So now he's correct, and we can put him over on his trim, so we'll leave him alone. You can see that top is there, and that bottom is there. And then I just go around the whole thing, so I know that this one over here, let's take a look. That's that bottom one there, so the way I want the orientation, I'm going to do 2 clicks this way. Very good, so over here, let's take a look. So select one, that's the bottom left, so again we're going to go 2 clicks this way. Okay, now the last one is the front. So we'll just select one, and he's again bottom left, so we go this way, 2 clicks. There we go. So now we want to put these guys for the floor trim, and it looks like we're going to have to use one of these in here. So let's do 1, and then we can get him all set up nice and easy. So I'll bring this guy over like this. And what I'll do is just hold the X key again and snap them into place. 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. And you'll notice what I did here is these are right along this line, but these tops are halfway through because this is double this distance. So we really want half of that, okay? So now when you look at that side, he's all set. And the others are just as easy to snap to that. So let's do that really fast. And we'll use the V key to help us along here so that we can get, this is really easy because now if you don't have very many UVs on this chart, it's very easy to select those points. I can bring these over a little closer to make it a little bit easier. There we go, so that we're not moving so far across the screen. But because the V key allows us to snap directly to the vertices, it's ignoring everything else. Whereas when I was using the X key to snap to the grid, using that X key and snapping to the grid, it's going to stop at every acceptable grid point. And that's just too much for what we want. We don't care. We just want to go right to the vertices. Okay, so again, This is all set well and good, but we do need to move our shells. So I'm going to select shell, select this guy, and say, move you up by 1, move this guy down by 1, move this guy right by 1, and the 4th one can stay right there. And then just make sure that they're not overlapping at any repetition of the shell. So I could not take this and move it up 1 and leave 2 right here, because I'm going to have the same problem I'm trying to avoid. So instead I just put 1, 2, 3, and I leave 1 there, so that's all 4 handled. Okay, so let's close that for now. So that is essentially how you go about doing your texturing to play well with this kit. Because what we have now is we have a piece that we made entirely brand new, and we wanted to make this thick floor. I don't have any of those, see? I only have these flat floors. So now we made a thick floor that we can use. And what we can do here is let's export this guy and bring him into the Unreal. So let's do that. So we'll say export selection. And I'm going to just throw him on the desktop. Now, actually, I'm going to put him on my D drive where I have all my data. Okay, so let's do, yeah. Throw him in the mod kit folder. There we go. So let's call it thick floor. Just so we know what he is, we'll export him. Okay, so now we've made an extra piece. So there you go, 143 pieces you guys are getting, and all you have to do is provide a texture. And your texture, all it needs to do, once again, so if I come up here and zoom in, all you need to do for your texture, we talked about what these all are, and if you have questions, please let me know. But we talked about what these are, so now all you have to do is fill in your textures here, and it's on nice even numbered grids. So you fill in your textures here and apply that to your whole material, and it just all works. So let's go ahead into Unreal, we'll take a look. So here we are in Unreal, okay, and again, here's the kit, and it's looking pretty nice, right? So I'm working on, the first one is, yes, medieval theme, because that's the theme of the game I'm working on. But like I said, you can change out the entire theme based upon your textures. So these are all floor A is what I call the model. So you can see up here it says MK for mod kit floor, A3, A4, A5. Now, a quick word about nomenclature. You'll notice that all of these have a really nice name, and it's nice and easy to tell what they are. That's really important. So what you want to do is make sure that your naming convention, for me, MK, or I would call it C underscore, so it's the castle set, and then S underscore for the sci-fi set. Then you want to have your floor. What is the next biggest thing? So we have our theme, where we're big to small. Theme, you go down to what is the broadest term I can use to describe this. So we go from theme down to it's a floor. Okay, good, it's a floor. Then I could say what kind of floor. So then I just say A, and then B, C, D. That way I know which type of floor I'm looking at. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. See, there they all are. So that way you can probably expand upon that if you wanted to. You could say like floor underscore checker, floor underscore, multi-stone, whatever. But that way you make sure that everything has a good name. You don't want to use a number at the end, and here's why. Because here you see I made multiple floor A's. So if this was floor A1 and then I made a copy of it, floor A1 makes it look like floor A11. So depending on how many variants you have, that could be misinformation. It could be confusing to a user inside the editor here. So we want to keep away from that. Okay, so let's bring in that model that we made and watch him just kind of adapt to everything here. So I've created this material, and this material is nothing more than just all of the textures from the kit that I'm creating. Is it still opening? No, it's not. So nothing more than the kit I'm creating. You can see it here. Let's open it up. So here's the texture. It's very simple for right now. I just want to get it working and show you that it works, and then we can make it fancy later on. So it's just all of these just plugged into their inputs. There's no magic going on here, okay? But then once we have that material applied, I can just throw it on any piece that has already been mapped, and it will work out. So here, let me show you. If we take meshes, and here's all of the pieces to the kit. Look at that. All 120 something pieces, all for you, okay? So as an example, we haven't done all of the textures yet for all of these, but let me bring in a piece that has never been in this world before, and we'll do it completely from scratch. So this is stairs, trim A with wall A. See how nice and easy it is to read? So if I drag this into the world, okay, here he is, and he's already been set up to accept wall A, so it's going to be this wall texture, which is the same one here you can see here. So we'll have this texture on this side, and this side, and then it's going to use trim A, which we haven't done trim A yet, but it'll use trim A for all of the steps here. All right, so let's see that pop into existence. So we'll go over to our materials and we just drag and drop the material on it. And there you go. He's all set up. Stairs looking pretty nice. Everything's looking pretty good. And you'll notice that it's seamless with the texture. It goes right over the edge here because everything is to that grid. So it goes right down, and I don't necessarily like that. I might want these to be more of a solid stone all the way across. So we can change that. We just move around where these UVs are on the chart. So we've already set everything up, and we just move things around the chart. Okay, so that's all set, but what about, okay, let's do the next one over. Let's do, actually, we want wall C. Look at this guy. Okay, this guy's kind of like a washed out stone, right? So let's grab that guy. So here's C. So we'll put C right next to him. And then all we do is grab the material and say, boom. And there you go. There's your washed out stone. So everything is designed to fit and connect with all the other pieces, and the textures match, and everything just kind of flows. And then now you can get a lot more complex with this, and there are much better kits. There are much bigger, grander, you can get 1,000-piece kits, you know, but I wanted to give something to somebody who maybe is getting into game development, and you want to be able to say, oh, I just need some walls and some floors and some stairs so I can prototype something. Well, here you go. Here's 142 pieces to play with, okay? Now, one last thing, let's take a look at bringing in our brand new thick floor thing that we made. So let's bring that guy in. So we're going to import. I'm going to go to that folder. Here he is, thick floor, open. I'll show you the whole process, okay? So I don't change anything here. I'm just going to say import all. Now for some of the pieces, like the stairs, I don't think it's such a big deal, but definitely for these guys that have a concave surface, or these guys that have a concave surface, we do need to set some settings. So I'm going to double click this guy, bring him over here so you can see it. So here's the piece, and you can see it's already using those textures that it had inside of Maya. So if we were to set up the material inside of Maya as well, they would come in pre-textured even, which is amazing. So let's scroll down here, and I'm just going to change this one setting. Under collision complexity, I'm going to change this to use complex as simple and say save. Now for a box, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to make any difference at all, which is essentially what this model is. But for something like this, that allows me to be able to walk underneath this, okay? So now, let's bring our thick floor into the world. There he is. And we're going to watch him become one of these, okay? So if we go over to our texture, material, drop it on there, boom. He's all set, and look at that. We've got the stone around the edge. So we've just made a completely unique piece just by some very simple modeling, and then by using a structure, and by using that structure in both our modeling and in our texturing and in our UV layouts, we've created something entirely new. So I hit play, and let's walk around the world. We can take a look at this guy. So he respects collision. I can walk up on him. These stairs, they have not been set up properly. As you can see, they've got this kind of slope to them. So we need to do the same thing for them, and then I'll be able to walk up each individual step. Okay, so the same settings we did over here. And all of these guys, I don't think my character is not thin enough to get through, but technically if I was, I could walk right through there. And you can see here, these are just simple different changes. So this texture, and this guy's a little bit thicker of a border. This guy's that really thin grout lines with a washed out look. This is really thick, big stones with that kind of stucco look across them. So I'm just trying to give you guys a little bit of variety so that you can have different rooms, and you can put the little trim on the bottom if you wanted the little trim, and then some different style floors, trying some different designs. You know, just a little bit of variety, you know, kind of for testing purposes. Get your game out there and start making things happen, and you can throw this together and create a quick little world. And you can do that inside of Maya. You could create a piece like we did, entirely from scratch, and just make sure that it follows the texturing rules. Or you could do it inside a Blueprint here. You could put some pieces together and start to create a room. You know, we've got corner pieces, you've got walls, you've got ceilings, you've got floors, you've got stairs. So that's a really good starting point. So that's what I wanted to give you guys. I really hope you have enjoyed. And don't forget, on the website, there will be a link. You can download this 142-piece kit. This will be a good kit to start you off with. They are all in FBX format. I might be able to do an OBJ later if you guys need that as well. But if you have any questions about it at all, please let me know. I really hope you've enjoyed. So until next time, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.